meeting of the Historic District Review Board in order. We will start off with the public hearing for 31 Kimball. Do we have the applicant here?
Would that be Vincent? Is he from the modular?
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, Vinny Letta with Westchester Modular Homes. What I'll do is I'll share my screen here. I think I need permission in order to share my screen.
I'm letting you in.
Okay. So per the last meeting that I attended, it sounds like the original architect ended up, I would say doing about 70% of the comments that were made on the first meeting. So I actually put a list here on the top right of edits that we made per the last meeting, and obviously I can go through the floor plans specifically or the elevation specifically, but we replaced the fiberglass door to the exterior with all wood, so there's Simpson doors, and I actually called out that's the model and the elevation of the door on the side. That was one of the changes. Also in the back and the front, all three exterior doors are going to be Simpson meaning pine doors. We're replacing the fiberglass columns with wood, and we did specify they're 10 by 10 wood columns with a white painted finish. We omitted the crown over the garage door. We just did a simple 4-inch trim around. Omitted the glass on the garage door, so it's all just raised panel doors. We extended the header over the column on the front porch to the end, right there. We extended the front porch to match the pitch, so it's kind of hard to see, but this pitch here is the same as this pitch here, so extends the same distance, and it's the same look on both elevations. And then finally, we ended up changing all of the grill patterns to the 2/2 that you see. Does anybody have any questions?
I guess, can you just for the crowds that cram the meeting room, can you sort of describe what this project is about?
Sure. So unfortunately, the current owners of the property had a house fire. It was previously a 2-car garage with an apartment above it. Very vanilla square box, if you will, vinyl siding. It wasn't all that much to look at. And after the fire, now that it is a total loss, they're rebuilding out of necessity. So they changed up the layout a little bit, obviously, to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing in the first place, and then obviously with the board's suggestions, in order to meet the historic preservation, we ended up making some edits along the way. So this is the most recent plan. And again, the plan is to take the house down that's currently there, keep the foundation, add on a little bit just for the garage, excuse me, and then rebuild for them.
Okay, with that, just to explain the process to everybody, we'll go to a period where we solicit comment from the public. Please address your comments to the board. And at the end of that, we'll then turn it over to the board to see if we can if we can have an approval so that the construction can proceed. So with that, I will open it up to the public. Any comments from the public?
Before we do that, just for the record for the board, the mailings were done. The sign was posted, the notice of public hearing has been published properly, and
All of the
all of that.
procedures have been followed, they have in fact been followed. Okay, so with that, does anybody have any comment? Ding, 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 ding.
Anybody on?
Ding. Time is up, I'm sorry. Okay, so with that, I'll close the comment, period, the public comment. And I'll open it up to, questions and comments from the board members.
Did we get any written comment?
No written comment.
I think it's a great improvement, each of the last two rounds that we have gone through this. I don't see anything that stands out in my mind that we discussed that wasn't addressed. I think it's good.
Thank you.
Ladies, any comments?
I think that all the changes we asked for have been picked up.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, I think that like our district has a history of infill housing in antiquity, and this is sort of an example of contemporary infill housing, obviously not because it's an available lot, but because of an accident. And it's appropriate for the era in which it is built, and it is appropriate for our district guidelines. So I don't have any issue with it, and I think that the applicant has been very forthright and cooperative in responding to our feedback.
Okay, with that, do I have any motions concerning this application?
I vote to accept the application as submitted.
Do I have a second? Okay, Sean?
Aye, yes, I vote yes.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, it's approved. You'll
Thank
get
you.
Thank you.
The certificate of appropriateness over the weekend.
I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay. 133, 135 Main Street.
Aye.
We have one of our team members on the call, and I just realized if Pinhan puts the drawings on that screen, it'll be easier to see because,
Yeah, totally.
You can do that, yeah.
great. And, so since James was here last time, I just got a summary of what the project is about, but just that you know that James knows more than I do. He did give me a summary of what will be discussed today. So I'll do my best, but Matt knows all about the project, so.
I think she can go ahead and.
All right, Pinhan, would you like to share your screen?
I'm actually using my phone, so I cannot share in the screen. Sorry about that.
All right, will you be, so you're not near your computer?
I can do, but I don't have the file here.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so then, sorry, I could have, well, long story short, I don't have it printed on a large board.
That's
So-
We have small copies.
We have large copies.
Oh, large copies.
Too long.
Oh, two large and some small.
if I'm. You know, I mean, I don't know what our last conversation was, but I know the front porch, for example, is proposed to provide a safe way to get on the front entry of the buildings. And, they're proposing some modification, some removal of, not so great looking past additions in the front and the back, and proposing a new modification. So let me know if you have any questions. Should I walk you through the whole project?
Well, just, before we get started, looks like, do I have any objection from the board as far as having a public hearing on it? Looks like a major renovation of the structure. So I would think that we'd probably have a public hearing on this.
Sure.
Okay, so. Yeah, why don't you start and just sort of take us through the changes and why, why the changes are being made.
I'm sorry, I think previously it was a workshop maybe, and I'm not sure, I wasn't
wasn't here either.
here yet, so this is.
Oh.
So I can walk
Okay,
through the
awesome.
project.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can start at,
Oh, it was? I'm thinking it was like a month ago, 2 months ago.
I think it was
like
before
six,
Christmas.
okay.
So-
Sorry, go ahead.
so as we all know, this is next door to the Cozy Cafe, formerly, well, the former cafe was Hudson Hills. And we are proposing a covered porch similar to the Cozy Cafe that provides a protected entry to the new storefronts. And we are proposing new stairs, short steps going up to the new covered porch for safety reasons. Because when we had the entry steps from the Main Street side, the front side, the grade drop on the sidewalk was causing these different undulations, different heights in the risers. So going from the side gave us a good even risers on each side. And we are taking the glass front from the left side of the storefront and expanding it to the right side, giving a nice glazed storefront. And then on the back side of the property, we are removing a former, like a little bump out and expanding it further. I'm sorry, it's not expanding, it's actually a shorter addition in the back of the basement and then building up from there. So my understanding is that this side is shorter, right, than the overall, yeah, so the overall building depth is a little bit shorter than what we had before. And so we are maintaining 2 commercial spaces on the ground level. And upstairs is, we're changing it to 2 apartment units, which provides additional housing, which is much needed in the village. And there's some outdoor stairs to get to the upstairs apartment. And we're proposing dark sky compliant light fixtures and historically appropriate LePage windows, which have been approved on many village properties. So I believe we submitted the cut sheets of the products. And the roof line changed towards the back. And then we're maintaining painted wood railing in the front, refurbishing the historic existing brackets and columns and such. And in the back, we are proposing a little more utilitarian fence, which actually this fence that we're proposing, I'm sorry, I don't mean the fence, I meant railing. The railing in the back is the same as the railing that's at the Little Stony Point Association building. We could include that photo next time.
Okay, I guess. The visible changes that we see that are gonna be made to the exterior. Really have to do with the front porch. And the first floor. Because it's all being tied together, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Are the windows being replaced?
Yes,
How about the siding?
yeah, everything will be new. The siding will be the similar clapboard that's on there now.
I guess the rendering is a little, misleading because. The deck of the porch is not parallel with the street, am I correct? It's gonna be, level,
No, it's parallel with the street. It's, there's an existing stoop there, but it's bluestone.
all right, but I mean, is the first floor gonna be the same on throughout the building?
Yeah.
So then it really can't be parallel with the street because one side is higher than the other, right?
Oh, you say an elevation height? Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, because of the slope, there'll be less stairs on the, less stairs on the, east side than there will on the west side.
We don't want it parallel.
Yeah. It's a landlord quirk that they want to. Wow. So looking at the whole sort of material packet, it looks like everything being done on the front facade is wood components with the standing seam roof. And the more contemporary components are only integrated into the rear, which is all new construction anyway.
Yeah.
Right. End of thought.
Is the existing storefront, will that be maintained on the east and just replicated on the west, the historic?
So there'll be
Okay,
two commercial storefronts downstairs
right.
and two one-bedroom apartments upstairs.
Okay, so you're not removing that historic fabric, that's maintained. Okay, because you're also adding insulation, so I didn't know if you were furring out the front facade, but maybe that's on the second.
From the inside, but
Okay.
the facade will just be
Awesome.
reworked and new product.
And that ADA ramp is really great to see. I know a lot of people have asked to get into our stores with strollers and the elderly struggle to get in on these tubes. So that I assume is for public use when you use.
Yeah, they can enter through the rear of the store. Planning department had actually suggested that, so it was a great idea.
Where is it, in the room?
It's to the west.
Will be between, the cafe.
That gonna be problems for the code.
The length of it.
No, the accessibility is to the rear of the structure and usually the handicap accessibility is supposed to be to the primary.
Right, but this is, I think because this is a historic and existing and limitation of the front. Yeah, I think that
Well, and that's not our issue anyway, so.
Yeah, if you were to try to ramp to the front, you'd only be able to hit one of the storefronts. You wouldn't be
excellent point, yeah.
Well, it just wouldn't work in front.
Yeah, it wouldn't work
So
anyway.
just to have that availability is what we're going for. Yeah,
Yeah,
can access both stores. There'll be a rear.
I'm not gonna, like I said, that's not our issue, that's a building code issue, so
Gotcha.
we can work that out with the building inspector. Okay, and so the facade, I'm assuming that the sides are also being reclad.
Yeah, the entire structure will be brand, inside and outside. So everything that you can see. Well, everything will be new. historic point of view here, would be the front.
And the roof is going to be tin.
Yeah.
No. Okay, tin. So, okay, anybody have any questions?
I think it's a pretty big project, but it's also a pretty straightforward project, and and while it's a substantial change for the building, it's like such a kind of quirky looking building already that it's it kind of makes a lot more sense seeing it drawn this way. So I think this is sufficient to go to a public hearing, with everything that's outlined tonight. I don't really have any concerns about it. I think the only thing that's a little, just seems, sort of very new is using the square, profile for the rear deck mesh, I guess, instead of having either horizontal or vertical, members. It's just a little different. It's not really anything that we've seen. We've seen like some cable systems, we've seen some sort of more modern things to open up the views. I don't know if we've seen anything for porch railings using a galvanized, sort of mesh system like this. We've seen fences, it's just new, it's just, it's neither good nor bad, I'm just saying it's new.
Be helpful, because that is, I think it's prominent, from Main Street, and actually from Kemble, this back view is very visible. And since there's so much railing, I think we've really got to nail it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that it's the quantity of it more than the material itself.
It'll be black, so you really won't even see it.
At night.
Yeah,
Building's white, you'll
potentially.
very much see it.
Um,
At night it disappears, yeah.
I think it's,
I mean, the cables really disappear.
right. Well, with the cables, it's not even necessarily so much that they disappear, but you focus more on the wood structure of it, and then the cables are sort of secondary to it. This, I think, is gonna have a little bit more of a prominence of just metal across the board. But I agree with Kate. I mean, I think if we can see a photo of it, and of course, if the example of Little Stony Point, we can all make a stroll over there on a weekday and take a look at that place, then, that would be helpful. It's just, it's the thing of all of the elements that are proposed, it is like the most novel of them, I have to say. Even with the large format, glass on the rear, that is not as much of an outlier as it would seem necessarily. And I think because those planes are facing the, the sort of interior of the block, it's less visible, but because you can see the side of the building prominently from Kemble, the railing system is gonna be a little bit more visible.
I was curious about those garage doors as well, but curious how the rest of the board feels, because I do think they will be prominent.
I don't, will they be facing the rear? I
I
think
could
we,
be wrong. Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time when we met, which was 6 months ago, we kind of all more or less agreed that they were not gonna be very visible.
Yeah, I don't think that, and I think even if they are visible, they aren't necessarily gonna be visible in like the context of the streetscape.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna have that butting up against like,
That's fair.
like Todd's house, or like some like old beautiful brick structure, so it's not really something that jumps out to me as being a problem, because it's on the rear and because it will be on a very understandably new piece of construction.
The steel grating, is this what the entirety of the back stairs
Those are
will
only
be?
the stairs.
Those are only the rear stairs, okay.
There was a comment from the neighbor that there may be noisy stairs, so we did a little research, that's a silent stair.
Okay. And I think would probably be helpful, unless I missed it, a cut sheet for the roofing material or some reference images.
Yeah, I didn't
And the
see-
gutters, were you thinking aluminum or copper or?
I gotta see what the. What you suggest, what would look best on, you know, whether it's gonna be galvanized or the same color as the roof, or,
Yeah,
you know, it's really an aesthetic I would leave up to you guys.
yeah, from durability point of view, the gutter installers usually recommend them having to be galvanized.
Well, what is the intention as far as the roof? It's
Yeah, what-
obviously
what
it's
metal?
standing seam, but what's the material?
Like a gavaloon,
Okay,
most likely, yeah. I'll verify that with James.
all right, well. It probably should be something that we would want at the public hearing.
Yeah, definitely.
But obviously, if it's galvalume, then the leader, the gutters and the leaders probably match. So you know, galvanic action.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of whether it's intended to be like a high contrast thing or a more subtle incorporation.
Well, yeah, let's think about that.
Okay, got it.
And then I might have missed this too, but is that the siding gonna be hardy or wood or?
It might be hardy board.
I guess let me pose this question to the other board members because.
Wood.
Wood. That's a good point. I was gonna move the issue, this is so close to the sidewalk.
Yeah, I would love to see it remain wood. Um,
Yeah, I think roofing cut sheet and some reference images would be really helpful, and then the same for the gutters. I'll see the lighting cut sheets in there. And it'll be wood framed doors, glass, yeah.
Yeah.
Wood glass doors.
And sorry, the front porch you were talking about earlier, the elevation change in plan, is that? It's hard to tell in the site plan, but I think you've grayed out, towards the corner. Are the front planes of the porches now coplanar?
With that,
Or is one building pushing out more than
Yeah,
another?
those are on the same point. But there is no porch on this building now, it's just a bluestone stoop.
Right, the future design,
Yeah,
so,
future design will be the same.
great.
the client has purchased that sidewalk too.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to have a public hearing. Are there any other questions or things which the board members would like clarified at the public hearing?
Under the front deck, is that going to be lattice work in between the piers, the brick piers?
Yes.
Yeah.
The square.
Okay.
Vertical, not diagonal.
I'm good.
Can I make a motion to hold a public hearing on the application?
You can make that motion, yes.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
So that would have to be July, the next meeting is July 7th.
That is our next scheduled meeting, but I think we have to have a discussion about when our next meeting is actually gonna be.
Oh, actually, yeah, I don't think I can do that either.
So we will let you know when the public hearing will take.
But if this is
Oh.
any importance, James and I will be out of town from July 9th to 25th, so.
From when to when?
The 9th to the 25th, July.
Okay, we need to see when we'll have quorum because I think that we're, our meetings are the first Tuesday, but that's for the July week in July, so I don't think we'll have quorum to have it then anyway. So we were going to talk tonight about when we're actually gonna perhaps combine our July and August meetings somewhere in the middle, so.
All right,
We'll
well,
let you
let's talk about it right now. and Resolve the issue. Who will be available for the July 2nd?
I am flying back from not here either.
Not here.
And I am flying from here to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
I will be here,
You'll be
but I think without them, we can't have a meeting though, if they're both gone.
Well, we need a quorum, which would be 3.
I think I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Let's schedule it for the 2nd. You done?
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys can send us any thoughts you may have.
Sure. If I
And
change
we'll
my
promptly
mind.
ignore everything that you said.
Totally. Totally fair.
We will get the notice written up, we'll send it to you and you know the whole drill with the sign and everything.
So in that respect, we will also amend the package to include the roofing and the photo from Little Stony Point to make it convenient for you as soon as possible.
And we need the updated package long enough for people to take a look at it at Village Hall. When is that, when do they need to submit the final package?
Well, you'd want to have it, I suppose, the Friday before the day of the hearing, but I think as soon as you have something to submit, we can put it up on the website and send it to the board members so they have time to look at it before that.
The postings will be in the paper on the 26th and the 28th of June, so I would say if we can have it by the 21st, Friday the 21st, that would be great.
Yeah, that's.
And obviously sooner, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't see why not. Okay, great.
All right, did we vote on the motion?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
It passed.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you all. See you on the 2nd.
We'll see you in a little while.
Right, the 5 Furnace Street, I wasn't sure if it was on the agenda.
Yeah, it's not on this one. the
Well,
printed-
it's not, it wasn't on the agenda because nothing new had been submitted at that point. So what I did was I provided you with the paperwork. The board can vote to modify the agenda to put 5 Furnace on, and then you can be heard on that. So if we have a motion for that,
I will make a motion to add 5 Furnace to our agenda.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
and all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We'll do that now. Is it? We'll do it at the end.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
Okay, let's just very briefly recap things that we asked for them to either clarify or add.
Roofing and gutters.
Rear railing structure images, and also the drawing should indicate that all of the siding will be wood and trims will be wood.
The railing, and then what?
That all of the siding and trims will be wood.
That should just be specified on the
It's
drawing.
just not drawn, anymore. It's not labeled. anymore.
Okay, next. 9 Orchard Street.
We put them in here, I just had to deliver them on Friday afternoon, I had to leave them on the those. Yes. Reminder, it's a shed, an old shed that's in the back left corner of the lot and it's falling apart without permission. And we're trying, wanted to replace it with something that's simple and traditional. I try to illustrate what it would look like, just materials are pretty much just pine and slate. Slate for the roof. Yeah.
So on this image,
Yes.
the double doors are facing the street and the single door is facing into the yard. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
and double door is like what's there now.
Right.
The only question I have is, and maybe this image is part of the answer, but what the windows and doors look like? Everything else seems,
Except the window facing the pool would be 6 panes,
okay.
and it's like 2 by 3 feet inside.
Oh, is all of this behind a fence? Do you have a fence on the side of the house? Like between this shed and the street, is there a fence?
This fence.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
A neighbor.
Right,
No,
right.
it's not visible, but it's not visible.
Yeah. I don't know how we can say no to a slate roof.
Not high end enough.
So the proposed construction is board and back, right? That's right.
Pardon?
The proposed construction is board and back.
Yes,
And is the board or is it plywood?
the board would be pine. Boards, pine, all wood
It
board,
would be a board.
yes, no plywood. Well, that 1 foot wide pine.
And are the double doors that face the street going to have the same kind of pattern?
So it would be made of wood, so it wouldn't be really different from the wall,
Oh, okay. The hidden doors,
right?
kind of concealed doors.
Yes.
Good to me.
Can I make a motion to approve the application as submitted?
I'll second that.
And the battens are what? Because the boards are 12 by 1s, right?
Yes.
And what are the battens?
2 by 1. 2 by 1. Just to cover the gaps between the boards.
Okay. Any other questions?
We had a motion.
Okay. So, vote concerning the, approval of the application as submitted.
I vote aye.
Aye.
And I vote. Okay. Done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I can't wait to see it.
Hi there.
Hi. Oh.
Solar panels.
Yeah. Wait. Which house is this?
Isn't it white?
Oh, this is the one inside the court.
Oh, it's not the one that,
Oh, no, wait, it is. This is the one that faces
yes, it isn't the one that Luke and Catherine are building.
next to it? Yeah.
Straight across the pan south.
Yeah.
We paint the house white.
Oh, it is, right? We're not all like losing our minds.
I think
It is
that's
white
the
right
old
now?
photos. It is definitely white. I
Yeah.
just walked past it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two growing.
So it looks like these panels on the south side, and this is a cul-de-sac, and so this house is going to be facing one other house. And lucky for you, the utilities are right there on that south corner, which limits conduit thinking around the house, right? And it just goes directly down.
And as a generalized practice, part of our wholesale scope of our installation is to minimize those runs in general, regardless of whatever restrictions are pre-built in.
Great. And then the cuts also showed,
It's not this, yeah.
panels that have a black perimeter. There's not like a silver trim or anything. It's just everything is
It is all
black. Right?
And all the panels are treated with this anti-glare coating on them, so it shouldn't emit too much glare off of them, which is pretty much the standard practice for solar panels now.
Okay. Are they doing batteries? No.
No, this is gonna be 24 reach mounted panels, that's it, with the associated micro inverters. After that, there's no other equipment outside of the shut off switch.
Okay, the main disconnect is on the south east corner, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the house that, what's his name, used to live in?
No,
No.
it's around the court. It's inside the court itself.
Sean,
So it's across the street from.
so the garage is facing, Halding.
Yeah. So even though it's proposed for the front pitch of the roof, it's a non-contributing structure to the district. And it's
Well, these are all,
inside a court.
these are all new structures anyway,
Right. I mean, I think if it were on Paulding, I'd feel a little bit differently about that, but I think with the somewhat contemporary building inside a cul-de-sac,
Centered on
I
the roof.
feel a little bit differently about it. Is there a reason why it doesn't fill up the roof?
Yes, because of the 105% rule, only allows for a certain amount of production from the solar panels to match with the utility bill states. And on
Okay.
top of that, the fire pathways for the first responders need to be respected and thought out before they place on the roofs.
But could it be the same size and centered? Would you not have 3 feet on either side then?
You would, but then the production would, drop.
Really?
Yeah, the production of the panels, just by moving it out of the zone of the azimuth, of the sun traveling over the top.
Okay.
I agree, it's not ideal that it's on the front side of the roof, but given the way the building is sited, I don't have an issue with that. And that, like you said, sort of contemporary structure, yeah.
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
No.
I have a motion concerning the application.
I will make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Can you just tell the clerk your name?
My name is Jan Burgess.
Oh, you are Jan.
I'm Jan, yeah.
Oh.
Surprised to see. me.
Nice to meet you. I've seen your name a lot of times and I don't think I've ever actually met you.
Yeah, once a year in the month of January, you see it all over the place for 31 days. So.
Okay.
So we'll process the
Thanking.
COA.
We are.
You'll get it next week.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, so this is a workshop.
Yeah, I did send in drawing.
Oh, yeah, I think we got them right here.
No, that's Furnace Street.
Oh, this is from, oh.
What, is that big drawings?
This is-
They're in the.
I have little drawings.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, is it,
PDFs too, so.
Whichever works.
521? Yeah. No, I'm saying, are these the updated ones? 521?
Yeah.
At 1:28 PM?
All right.
All right.
Sorry.
We'll hold you to that.
Tell us about what you're proposing.
So if you start on that first page, I think, the A001, the diagonal hatch is an existing structure. And then the gray to the left is proposed addition. That also extends somewhat over the existing. The massing of that is essentially dictated, the mass of the addition you can see is dictated by both existing setback, and then there's a 5-foot on that lot line portion of the building, there's a 5-foot. It'll be more evident when we move on, but I just want to say kind of how the massing was determined. There's a bunch of factors that led to the I guess we can move on to the next page, but I'll state there's a bunch of factors that led to the proposed massing. There's a lot of existing landscape that we're trying to be really cognizant of and preserve. Secondly, I'm trying to find the right name for it. I think it's kind of this really quaint federal style. The closest I could find was there's a little house on Market Street that's kind of a similar scale, similar size, similar kind of gable that's parallel to the street. And so a lot of the houses along Garden, it's funny, I noticed in the new resource guide, there was no Garden Street house is like specifically called out, other than the mid-century modern-ish house across the street from this, which to me was kind of funny. Cause I think there's kind of amazing, this sort of like small scale, I'm saying federal style, you all could correct me, but the small scale housing, anyway, long story short, a lot of them seem to either have been lengthened or are longer, but it didn't seem appropriate to lengthen this one. This is what kind of led, that's the thought process behind the massing. So if you go, I guess it's a little bit cart before the horse, but just how the, but the next page is the proposed 400 series casement in some portions, double hung in some portions, all with simulated divided light. And then on the upper, there's only one. The intent would be to preserve the existing front door and storm door, but there is an upstairs additional door that would be the Anderson pine, but that's kind of cart before the horse. I guess we could go to, I mean, you'll probably want to look at like, I guess go to A102 to see the plan. Or do you want to go straight to facades? Is that kind of your?
One is helpful with the rendering.
Okay,
501.
501, and then the elevations are
yeah.
great.
Well, I would start with A201. I mean, you can go wherever you want, but A201 kind of calls out. So one thing I want to say about this building, which is interesting, the more time I spent in it, that's, if you go to A201, and you look at the existing elevation, like the drawing 1 and 2, are you all there?
Keeps letting out its belt, right?
That initial, that very first gable it's kind of amazing that is very clearly the original house. And then I don't know, we don't really have records, but if it was all done at once, but so that first dormer was an addition, and then that second dormer was an addition. And so I think it's also, I just also want to say, because on the wherever the guide is that has those little sketches, this is like poster child for like the addition that kind of has taken over the overall massing. So without being too presumptuous, I kind of feel as though, you know, my hope would be potentially to go forward and not, you know, and kind of like subsume that sort of, what did you call it? Letting out the belt version, but that kind of is precluded because of the 5 foot, that's right on the lot line. So we're pushing in all the work 5 feet. So it's not, so all the proposed work is within the allowed zoning envelope. But I want to also point out the proposed southeast elevation that maintains that kind of drop down, or I guess that'll be my word for it. That drop down roof line is almost invisible, other than from the adjoining property. A201 drawing 4 is the front elevation. And so the existing facade remains unchanged, other than replacing the windows exactly the same size and same 6/6 as is currently in place. No other work proposed other than, anyway, we may have to re-roof, but it would be with the existing material. And then the addition is almost a similar massing, but to the side and then push back. So then if you go to, well, or if you want to, I don't know if you want to ask questions, or I can keep walking through.
Well, okay, I mean, just going to A501.
Okay.
Essentially, the addition is to the left, and it's also extends back. Am I correct?
Correct.
Um. And now, as far as the materials that you're using, or do they match the existing?
Yeah, so it's an existing cedar, so that's in the call outs, but it would just be, matching the painted cedar shape. And then, there's another, do you have the photo packet? There's, because we're basically, for the most part, just, copying what's there, but and there's not, it's fairly modest, I would say, but there is kind of a nice existing, on page 4, there's a nice existing post details that would be replicated. They're kind of just like a routed wood post. And then it's all just square stock eaves. And again, that would be replicated. There is anyway, that's.
Are there any zoning issues that you're going to be dealing with, or is all of it as of right?
It's as far as I know, it's all drawn as of right.
And we have a referral from the building inspector, so they would have he would have identified if it was anything.
Well, this is a workshop, right? Did we get the referral?
What?
Yeah, we got the referral.
Okay, does anybody have questions? I mean, this again is a sort of a major renovation or expansion of the existing house. So I do believe probably gonna need to have a public hearing on this one also. Anybody disagree?
No.
All right, does anybody have any other questions that they would like answered for the public?
I think the massing pushback looks great. It's deferential to the original building. It's easiest to read in the renderings, and I wonder if next time you could get rid of the gray overlay. It almost, the gray makes it feel like that's not in play when that's actually what we're reviewing.
You mean on the elevation?
On the elevations.
Yes, okay.
That would be super helpful. And the windows that you're replacing, are those historic original windows?
I would need you might know, they don't, I think they've been replaced someday. Yeah. Yeah, we've gone back and forth a lot on them, but they are the 6/6.
But there are exterior storm windows.
Yeah, so I think this will be a great improvement on that, in that case. And yeah, that sort of, what is our term for that? That step down rear addition would be less prominent.
And the casement windows on the second floor of the addition on the north side, would those have lights to match?
It seems like either they didn't come through in the printout we have, or some of the windows do not have the light patterns drawn in. It might be just not a printing thing.
No,
You're looking at.
they're drawn as proposed.
I'm looking at a PDF, 4 on A202.
Yeah. 4 on A202, yeah, they're
Yeah.
supposed, so for that, the northwest elevation, would be proposed to have, the 6/6 below, and then just, so that, just, single, no divide lights above.
I don't remember how visible that facade is.
It's almost not,
And right now, it would be,
yeah. The only, anyway, I shouldn't say anything, but I almost want to say it's hidden by parked RV.
It's,
Temporary.
it's, I think it, you know, the current, I guess, northwest elevation of the house is quite visible because of
Yeah.
the yard. But obviously this is gonna be filling in the yard, so I think it's gonna become less visible from the street. Is there a reason why all of those windows, I'm assuming one of them is a casement for egress, but
Hmm.
is that why they're all casement
You mean on that
second
side?
floor of the bedroom?
And the
Um,
first, really, because it's kind of replicating the same openings on the first floor
So
there.
it's one reason, so when we're trying to push forward with, energy efficiency, the double hungs is kind of a antiquated method, so the thought is to sort of replicate it with, I guess we're still calling it 6/6 casement, but it's really like I guess, just a 12 light casement, and then kind of and then it really gets to preserving the views to the exterior, both by not, because the double hung also really impacts the views from the interior, as do the simulated divided lights. But, and I think it is true, and I do apologize, because I think this was a little bit like trying to make the gray came from like trying to make my zoning case as opposed to making the HDRB case. So, I can definitely do more renderings and look at really how the visibility, but I do think that, I mean, because you can see the photo, I'm sorry, on page 501, you can see the photo is, roughly matched with the, I didn't do all the little detailing, but, and so really that north facade is fairly, hidden, but I can make that more evident and we can look into that.
I think I would, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of comment on the windows. I feel like I feel like it's important that they match is not the right word, because they're not double hungs. I'm not fundamentally opposed to casements, but I do think the light patterns need to be carried through and consistent. So we're looking at 202, the new northwest, and then I think if you go down to northeast, and this may be even less of a factor if this is, I mean, the rear facade of this building. Is it visible at all from a public right of way, or?
No,
No.
because it's in from because of the way that the house on the corner of Northern sits, it kind of blocks the whole, like, you can't even see it from Garden, Church Street. And as you would be able to see it, like, kind of between the buildings, there's that other house there.
I was just.
I don't think we consider the creek to be a navigable waterway, so.
It was last summer in July.
That's true.
It certainly
I know, I
filled
guess
my
I
backyard up.
I shouldn't make assumptions.
I guess maybe I'll do a walk by just to confirm that, but, right, okay, not visible. I would just say if it is at all visible, the three windows on the left side of that, under that gable feel very, very, very contemporary to me. The sizes and the positioning of those windows. If it is not visible then from the street, then that is not in our purview, but if it is, I would say, I think those need to be maybe adjusted. So yeah, light patterns, and then I guess my only other comment, and I don't know I'm looking at the floor plan as well as the front elevations. Underneath the addition side, on the first floor where there's two windows, just something feels
A little underbaked.
yeah, like, and I understand you've got a shower there, so that is a difficult thing to figure out. It just feels not, it doesn't feel, I think even if, and you probably don't want a door, but even if they're to the mechanical room, like there was a door instead of the one window, like
Yeah.
a door and one window would somehow tell a little bit more of a story for the reason for this structure to be the way that it is or something.
I think we have in the district a lot of examples of like side additions like
Yeah.
this, and all of the ones that I could think of have a secondary entrance, which is probably because their function was to be like a kitchen or something like that, and that's so they like have that second entrance.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about the house on the house on the end of the very, very top parsonage that Dee Dee and Victor live in, like that has this like side.
And the one we
Paulding.
just approved for in that same part of town too. They're putting the side addition on and they have the secondary door there too.
Yeah, it's just kind of a more common thing and it gives the addition a little bit more of like an implied purpose.
Right, now,
Um,
what if that's not applicable, like, from a programmatic standpoint?
Right, then it is sort of just like window dressing.
It's just a,
like a dummy door?
I don't necessarily think it's dummy door. I just think that it was the one thing about this side edition that seemed different from other editions that are, other historic editions that we have around.
I mean, I see that, cause there's sort of there's a triplet patterning that kind of goes throughout. Even towards the rear that's not visible.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if could be addressed somehow. I'd have to talk to the clients about.
I don't even think it needs to necessarily be
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be a pattern of 3. It's
maybe it
more
is a
just
dummy door.
making it seem like it's a door. I don't know, or even like a door on the side. It's almost like we talked about with the house on Kemble with the
Yeah, it
garage.
makes sense to me on Temple because
Cause
it's
it could
that,
be a door.
well, because it could be a door, but also there was something about the facade and the garage protruding where we were trying to make the garage less garagey.
Yeah.
And on this one, I would need to look at some of the precedents you're referring to for the additions and the doors, but I wonder if there's a second door, but then sort of diminishes the primary door and there'll be confusion about the main entrance and it almost would become like 2 townhouses if the foil is like too successful in this case, maybe we should.
Yeah, I'm not saying that is the answer. I'm suggesting it as Sean's kind of explaining further that there have been several examples that where we have approved things and it has been done successfully in a subservient way. It's set back and it just sort of, it makes the addition kind of make sense more. So if that's not it, I agree. I don't think it has to be 3 windows. I think asymmetry when it's done well can be really, really beautiful. I don't think it has to be repeated that way.
Right.
There's just something about that feels stuck on. It feels just like a box that's kind of been stuck on and,
But I think also part of it too is because it's not a upper balcony over a lower porch. Like because the wall is forward to the edge of the balcony above, that's what makes it seem less, it just seems a little stark. That's the
Yeah.
only, I don't know how else to describe
I agree.
it.
That comment I agree with.
That's
I'm
what
not
I- yeah.
sure, like, once the gray is off and that there's something about maybe it's the height of the windows in relation to the porch and the roof buildup. And actually on the other facade, even sort of how the eave is snapping in, the sort of higher remnants of an eave. That's sort of, I understand why you've tied it in, but this ends up with a sort of extra large fascia board maybe, and so somehow I think it's just some.
I've lost track of that.
Cause yeah, so let me get back to 501, 202, here we are. So we're talking about 4201, but if you also reference I think 4202, the roof line of the addition snaps to the roof line of the original home.
Yeah.
And that's a nice gesture. I think on the front facade, somehow there's that, fascia is deeper, higher than the existing house, and maybe the relationship between the detailing of the roof and the windows, they're.
I
almost
think there's not enough
together.
space between the deck, yeah, the windows need to be lower.
For both
Yeah,
floors.
maybe
there's
to line up with
For
the
the
historic.
For the first
windows.
floor, the windows need to be lower, and that would definitely help.
Yeah.
So I might, yeah, it's an interesting, so if you look at A201, the elevation
Yeah.
for, it's, you know, it's interesting when you're so it's kind of drawn in elevation and then there's an alignment between the upper floor and the lower floor. And then it's interesting because as we all realize, when you look at perspective, it's almost funny to me that, because when you look at that rendering from the sort of perspectival oblique view, the value of having those aligned when it's looked at direct, you know, as one can never look at it, which is like directly and isometric from the front. So, I mean, would the thought be that, I mean, I think that either even modifying the sizing, because there's not, I think the sizing there is really driven by the thought that replicating the exact window that is in this historic house would be the most desirable thing from your, I think that's probably driven with the thought that would be like most desirable from a historic.
I think one of the things that's, you know, you're obviously very constrained from a dimensional perspective. It's not a massive building and it's not a massive addition. And this is something that we just, with the Kemble Avenue, the new building that just got approved, this was one of the big kind of things that we had talked with them over the 2 meetings, was figuring out the proportions of certain things, and they ended up shrinking down windows, making the light patterns less busy. They had 8/8 originally. We landed on 2/2. I was, you know, I think you could play around with some things, and maybe dropping the windows might do the trick. Changing the scale of the windows. You know, if you had a little more wiggle room on the floor plan on the inside, I would almost say, like, on the right side in the bathroom end of things, ganging 2 windows next to each other, which would be not follow the 3 groups of 3 symmetry elsewhere in the house, but do something there to enliven the facade. I think you could play around with some different options, maybe.
There'll be, it matters, but there'll be landscaping in front of that too, so.
Yeah.
It looks a little dark.
Yeah, I think.
And you know, it's funny because it's helpful to take pictures in the winter, but you know, in the sense that we can see the house, but actually that facade, part of why we're pushing it exactly there is to save a Juneberry that is in that corner. Hopefully we can do it, but it would actually be largely planted. And like as I think I mentioned earlier, part of the concept is to preserve as much of the landscape as possible. I guess my question would be if, because I think that there would be options for modifying those, the geometry on those windows. Because like I said, I actually, when I see them, I think they're, again, I have to talk to the client, but I think they're almost like 100% driven by doing like the same window as we've done elsewhere, on that front facade. Whereas maybe, given the use of those rooms, that actually doing something a little bit different might be appropriate.
Yeah, I think as far as the massing of the addition itself, it's appropriate to the district, it's appropriate to the building that's going to be attached to. I don't really think that there's anything that's jumping at it to me as being contrary to our design guidelines as far as what we expect additions to look like. It is just it's just kind of how you integrate it into the existing building. That's the only thing I think needs just a little bit more tinkering. And as far as the windows, just going back to the discussion,
When you say integrating it into the existing building?
just making it making it make sense as part of the, as a part of the whole building. And what we're talking about with this, the lower level of the front facade, it just seems a little under, it seems like the exterior is being driven by the use on the inside. And not that it's.
Just on that lower portion.
Yeah, and not that it's, you know, thinking of like the rhythm of the whole front of the building as a piece.
Well, it's funny, I mean, I only, it's only not because those are just the same size, same double hungs as are elsewhere. If anything, I think, if that's my thought, is actually maybe having it more driven by the use on the inside with potentially a little bit smaller windows or some other articulation might actually lower the prominence of that kind of that lower mass. But the rest of it in terms of tying it, because you were saying that tying it together, if you look at the going back to the northwest elevation, I mean, the gable is essentially the thought to, in terms of tying it together, the gable is thought to be almost like a mirror.
Yeah, I think all of those points are working. That's all of those things are working. It's just the only real thing that I'm hung up on is that lower level of the front elevation. But I also just wanted to go back to the side windows. We were talking before about having the casement. You have the casement windows on the top and then the 6/6 double hungs on the bottom. Is there a reason?
Those are casements too.
Those are casements
They're
on the
all,
bottom?
yeah.
Simulated device.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would advocate that you drop the grills off of those then. I thought that those were double hung. I think if you're gonna not have them on the top, I don't know if they're necessary on the bottom. Because then what you're basically establishing is that only the double hung windows will have grill patterns and the casement windows will not.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think especially on the southeast elevation, the new elevation, you've got a mixture. And again, you've got kind of a type K there on the far side, feels really like very, very modern and not in sync with an old house. I don't think single light.
And the two flankers.
On where? On the south?
Yeah, right here.
Oh,
Like you've got the original double hungs or new double hungs on the second floor, and then you've got these three that don't feel like they belong. And I don't know, I think the sides and the front should be simulated divided light personally. The
even if they're
rear-
casement windows?
I think the casement windows as well.
No, I guess the question is, what do the two flanking windows do? Because this is in the kitchen, right?
I don't know if those are visible from the street, but I guess we can figure that out. But the idea, that's kind of that's actually the way it was built. It's hard to even describe unless you're in there, but that sloping addition then has kind of a false secondary
Yeah.
ceiling, so that like when you're looking at those three windows, they're actually within like an existing gabled shape, which would remain due to the zoning 5-foot zoning setback. But the idea is really to bring light into that space.
Right. But you're dealing with the kitchen.
Yeah, but those actually end up being above the.
You're showing counter, or the cabinets above the counter.
Yeah, those lights, those end up being even above the cabinets.
Above the cabinetry, yeah, that's why
There's
they're so
actually an
high.
existing one you can see on two. Now, the other thing is I don't really believe those are visible from the street, but we could figure that out, but there's an existing high window there, which is double hung, which is sort of silly because it's you can't even get to it. So the thought is like, what's the point? but I don't really believe those are visible from the street.
I think it'd be great to have some photos from the street looking at that north facade. But generally, to me, it feels like this is really close and there's just a few small refinements to get there. I really appreciate the railing precedence from Garden Street and that this would join that railing team and eventually make it into the guidelines, hopefully. And then I also wonder if the front facade windows, not to, beat it up first, but if we could get precedents where we see windows that are so tight to the soffit, and maybe it's not about this, if making the windows smaller helps. I think it's not as much about the window size for me, it's just the relationship of the windows to the soffit on both floors, and the height of the soffit on the second floor feels large. And this could all, once the gray is off and these elevations are blown up and detailed a little bit more, that could become less of an issue. But that's where I'm feeling like something is funny. There's not sort of space for cedar shake there.
Yeah, I think it's more, I mean, especially for the first floor with those two windows, it's more about the positioning of them than the size of them. I would absolutely start by dropping them and see how that looks. Messing around with the size or the layout is another option to work through, but I think first.
Is it
You're
possible
talking
just to
about-
lower the sill height so that it's in line with the existing historic
These two
windows?
windows, I think
So that it's
drop
Yeah.
down a little bit.
Well, that's over a toilet, that's in the mechanical.
so that they just got shifted down so that
Yeah,
the
there's
sill height.
nothing on that
Yeah.
floor plan. There's
On both
nothing
floors.
like in front of the window.
Yeah.
Well,
On the
here,
left.
yeah, on the left is nothing, on the right, you've got the toilet.
I think that. Yeah, we can work on the windows, I'm wondering, especially in terms of potentially positioning or sizing. That seems like definitely, I'm a little bit, so I feel like there's, what does one do with sort of like mixed messages on the say this is the simulated divided light.
Sean and I have offered our opinion.
You're gonna take
Three,
it outside
what are
and
your
come back.
opinions?
I was just thinking, all I was saying is that it's like if you have a combination of casement and double hung windows, to have grills on the double hung and no grills on the casement seems more consistent, but it does strike me as a little strange that you would have casement windows with a grill pattern on them on the same elevation as casement windows without a grill pattern and without any other reason for them to be different.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, I think maintaining a view is a perfectly fine reason to not have a grill pattern on a new addition to a building. But having it on the lower level seems a little unnecessary, considering you're not gonna have a grill pattern on the rear windows, and the front windows are not gonna be visible within that room itself. So from an interior view, there's not really any necessary reason to have them. I think having them on the front facade of the new addition to relate to the existing volume, that makes sense that they relate to each other.
Yeah.
Once you
I just
go
think
on the
we're
side.
following a lot of traditional kind of design and architecture in this edition, as opposed to another application coming down the pipeline, which takes a very different
Mhm.
path. And to me, if we're following a traditional kind of method of architecture and design here, single light casement windows are about as far from that as you can possibly get. That would be completely atypical of a historic home. Casement windows in general would not be appropriate for a house of this period. And certainly, I mean, wood casements would be in a smaller scale, not, egress level casement windows that you need right now for bedrooms, but that's kind of where I come from at least from the divided light.
That's true,
standpoint.
and you don't need egress because there's a door going onto the building, which is your egress.
Yeah.
So
that's a
those
great
don't even
point,
necessarily
actually.
need basements.
So for me, seeing if this is visible from the street will dictate.
Yeah, oh, I
what
agree, yeah.
direction I think it should go.
I think the side elevations, like can't really imagine that they're not, but yeah, we should definitely go walk by. And also, Sean, you're correct. You do not need egress casement windows on the sides, so there is a door.
And then the porch on the back, which probably is the least visible, it would be great to just get a bit more information, maybe materials on that, at the next round, but I don't see there.
Yeah, even because, okay. I didn't, because it wasn't visible from the street, I just thought it was, but I mean, it's just gonna be wood, yeah.
It's a minor point, but just, why was the dormer, from on the southeast elevation 2 to 1? That, the little trim piece that was there. Obviously was what the,
So which dormer?
Drawing are you looking
this,
Southeast.
Oh, that's actually, I apologize, that's a drawing error, because that's the inside,
that
that's,
stays there.
that's not there.
That's not
It's not visible, that's in the, I apologize, that's the interior ceiling geometry
At all.
popping through, you don't see that at all.
Are these
Who?
kind of funny privacy screens on the front porch gonna be removed too?
No,
We're gonna
there's
say
no,
that's
no,
visible
no
now.
change to that.
Is there commentary on these casement windows other than Sean and I offering mixed messages and pointing out the fact that you do not need egress windows there
Well, I
because there is a door? Do we have a?
My,
You're
my
talking about-
opinion is that on visible facades, casement windows are kind of a non-starter.
Yeah.
So I think, because given the approach of this design in general, so if we have to see how visible that northeast facade is.
Even like a 6/6 for energy conservation purposes, that's sort of the art, that's like the.
Are you saying that the casement window is more energy conservative
Than a double hung.
than a double hung?
As long as it's working properly and the seals
Right.
hold up and all those other things that eventually break down, but yeah.
Windows
I suppose-
also aren't probably the main source of.
Right, yeah.
In the scheme of this, it's not a,
Insulation,
Right.
Ceiling first, I appreciate that.
yeah, I guess it seems like it comes down to visibility or not. I think if it is visible from the public right of way,
Is this,
At least
just
one
on the,
feature
on
is-
the site plan on A3, is the, diagonal volume that's sort of half, grayed out? Is this the neighbor's garage or neighbor's driveway?
That is the neighbor's garage.
That's the neighbor's garage. So if you were on, if you're on Garden Street coming from the mountainside from Northern Avenue, walking towards the building, this garage is in line of the side facade of the addition, more or less.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And obviously, we're shortening the side yard. I'm trying to think of how those two buildings are connected to each other, but
well, you can, then the house on that lot is way back, you can see it. It's on the, almost next to the creek.
the house.
Sorry, the neighboring house, yeah.
Right, right.
This is all visible.
Through the, oh, that's right, through the garden, okay,
And there's fences and trees.
right, and all sorts of stuff.
Would be less visible once the extension is there. It's hard, I don't think it's visible
Oh, from
now.
the street, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of, I don't think it's visible now, but when the addition is there,
Did you mean from garden or from?
From northern, it'll be visible. The second story will be visible from northern through the neighbor's rear garden.
Well, you'll look.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask, the board again if you guys feel that the application is ready for public hearing. Or are there too many issues that still need to be addressed?
I think that there's a lot of question marks maybe that need to be resolved. We could certainly schedule the public hearing and keep it open if we needed to. But that would really be up to the applicant, whether they think that they could resolve these issues by then.
Well, the question for us should be that we will approve a public hearing when we think the application is ready for a public hearing.
Right, so since we have a number of things and visibility seems to be the driving factor here, we have to determine that. In first, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like,
Yeah.
so, come back in July and we'll, review it and then probably schedule a public hearing after that.
And we will walk by in the
The
meantime.
alternative would be to have them, the alternative would be, but to have them work to resolve these issues leading up to the public hearing, and then we would
Yeah,
review
I
the
mean,
documents
so
and.
can I-
if-
Oh, yeah.
No, but, cause I'm curious.
Oh,
maybe
my
you're not
question,
getting a-
given what you've described, I would be curious that, if we proceeded as though, if the thought would be to potentially resolve some of those like kind of window sill height issues, casement versus double hung. I guess it seems like if we proceeded, my assumption being from what everyone said is my assumption is you'll maybe walk up Northern Ave and assume that you can probably make out some portion of that northwest facade, that would be something that could be addressed between now and then. So as not to delay like then a second, with the thought that maybe those could be addressed.
I'll leave it up to you. I'll leave it up to you because, realistically, windows are an important feature of the house.
Right.
And, I think that it seems like there are a lot of, issues that need to be, discussed. And if you would like to have a public hearing come July, we can do that, but you run the risk of getting a rejection.
Right.
There's also only gonna be 3 board members present, so they would all have to vote in favor of the application.
Right. And it's up
Is
to
there
me.
a chance that we're not meeting in August, and so then we would be in September, does that?
No, I mean, we can.
No, we would meet at some point. There's just a chance we're not meeting on the
The first.
3rd of August for purpose.
I mean, the Main Street property issue that we just reviewed, the railing, the grid, and we have issue with, right? And that's going to public hearing in advance of getting that resolved. I don't know if that's then a risk for them or how that works if we sort of have an email and we see options in the precedent, but that it feels like none of us are comfortable with that rail at the moment.
With that.
The Main Street, mesh grid.
Rear railing system. I would consider that to be a less less of a design driver of the project. So even if after the public hearing, it were be to, that is something that could be, the project could be approved with, yeah, contingent on not being either changed or resolved, or they come back for a modification. It's a little less of the main facade of the building.
All right, Ethan, what you wanna do?
Well, I didn't realize, okay, so the downside, can I have some clarification? I think it's a great idea to get your input and, kind of have it more dialed in so that it's like, everybody's on board. However, I think there's, as everybody knows, there's like, scheduling, there's always this thought if we can rush things forward, that would be helpful. But isn't it the downside of having a public hearing and then it's further, do we have to do the whole rigmarole of posting, like, and letters and everything?
Another public hearing.
Like if it's not, sort of,
Well,
Fully
if you would just not close, you would just keep the public hearing open until the August meeting.
If that's the way that,
It moves.
what, yeah,
Minimal risk for them.
so I mean, I guess, I think it seems, I would be, it seems like scheduling, it's a good idea. I have confidence that, I see what, it's interesting because with a project like this, you're looking at so many things. But I think what you all have pointed out is, I could see it when I look at it. So, but I'm pretty confident that with like attention to that we can, work it out both from the front facade and from the, whatever's visible, and also have more clarity about like exactly what's visible. And
all right, well, let's just sort of clarify. So the sense I'm getting is that you would like to have a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, let's clarify the areas of our concern. And, so that at least we understand. So we're looking at, and I'll go to, 501 because it's easiest to understand. So essentially, our concern is really the windows here.
say here again, yeah.
Because that's on the street side, very visible. Windows are very important. The issue is that if you look at the elevation, the windows are higher in elevation, and don't align with the windows on the existing structure. Okay, and then we have the question of these, these windows here.
Yeah, both side elevations, have.
Yeah, how visible is that? Right, so
Southeast.
the question is this issue here. And again, my question to you is that you've got overhead cabinets on that wall, so. But that's your issue to resolve. The other issue is that
Just one more page past where you're at.
the other places that we're talking about with the issue with the windows is these windows right here. Yeah. And realistically, I think that given the setback, the side yard setback, it will be visible from the street. Because you're standing right here, you're gonna see those. Did I capture all?
I think so.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, because we took a vote on the public hearing, right? Or did we not?
No, we did not.
Okay, do I have a motion concerning, public hearing for 34 Burton Street? Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so,
So can you get the updated drawings by June 21st, Friday the 21st?
Yeah.
We'll have to post it on the 26th and the 20th.
Even though thank you for voting, you brought up very quickly the back screen porch. I just wanted to clarify, that wasn't in your list, but that's something.
I just thought we should more clearly sort of see what it is.
Okay.
That might be resolved by the non-gray out version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can put in,
Material fallout
I can do that, I
I
can
just-
share phones. Okay. So June 21st.
Drawings to the clerk.
And I'll pull out the extraneous stuff. So, but okay.
And
Can
then,
I clarify, since it's been a while, and I think I was Zoom last time I did this, but, because I sent in the 6 full size, but it doesn't look like anyone really needed those, so that was silly.
which size?
You know, I-
11 by 17? Oh, like big sheets?
Did you?
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's.
I don't even mind, because I won't do it, I won't do it again.
No, you just would need, are you gonna be here in person or are you gonna do it over Zoom?
Oh, no, I think in person. I just wanted to clarify, because it's always confusing. You know, Jeff says, yeah, we need 6 copies, and,
I don't know where.
No, we need like 11 by 17 copies.
okay.
But if for the
Yes, that
public
is-
hearing,
Okay.
yeah, I guess the question is that, it's not like we're going to have somebody at the door to keep the crowds back.
Hey,
you never know.
you never know.
So, I think that, a large scale drawing, which usually is put on an easel, is unnecessary. Push comes to shove, would you be able to present it on the screen?
Yeah. I can figure it out.
You would just log in to the Zoom from your computer while you're in the room.
Oh, I see.
And you would
Okay.
just be able to just.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's sufficient.
All right, thank you.
Will we hear from you if I'm busy, or are you just gonna step up for the visibility?
We'll just walk by.
Okay.
It's from the sidewalk anyway, so we don't need to.
Okay,
Bye, Prentice.
All right, thank you. I
59,163.
think it's not on the agenda because I didn't
59.
have all the materials. What I did have, I faxed over, but not faxed, emailed to Al and Sean today. I have copies.
Oh, is that
if
the
you wanna add
windows?
it. It's a facade and windows. Do you want to make a motion to add it to the agenda? I've got copies if you want to do that.
What do we have? This is the old florist, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a simple modification.
Well, we didn't approve anything for it yet. We haven't approved anything for the building,
It's
so,
gonna be, you approved when I did 81.
right, we haven't approved anything on that building now. So
I'll just give you.
you're changing the windows, so you were referred to us.
Well, I'm changing them to vinyl wood clad. Right now, they're all vinyl.
Right.
And about the facade, I am basically the facade at the top is gonna be a gable all across where the windows actually are.
Okay.
For the store windows. It's gonna give more of a historical look
to match.
Oh,
the
that's
rest
why
of the
there's
building.
an image of your building?
Yes, that's why I took.
Yeah.
Before we get started, we're potentially adding two projects to the agenda that weren't on the agenda. I really do like to look at the material in advance plan. I don't know, I don't need to, if you all feel more confident. I also, the night might between these two projects continue for a long time. I don't want to dump these to next month, but I just want us to be confident in how we're handling these two additions.
I think on this, since we haven't seen this at all, let's hold off on it. But
The thing is, my guy that is doing the work is leaving the country. So I'm gonna table it and not do it then. If you guys can't do it tonight, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay. All right.
Because I thought this was on and I submitted everything and I don't know why you guys didn't get it, but it's here. I gave it to Jeff.
Okay, well, Jeff retired last week.
I know, so there was some
And there's,
miscommunication.
right, and there is only one page of the application that was filled out. So, that's a file that.
And this is.
And I actually called, I called the building to see if I was on. They told me I was. I checked twice to make sure, because I didn't want this to happen.
Who said it was on?
The guy that you have that's
Okay,
in charge now.
Okay.
He actually called.
Work. I think it's just been a weird sort of
Well,
series.
Weird transition.
Yeah, but just with the process in general with the, coordination.
what is it that you're proposing?
I basically only want to change all the windows that are in the building and put them to be black. And they were gonna be wrapped, wood clad vinyl. Right now, they're all white vinyl.
So so they're going to be vinyl clad wood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Black.
Okay. Which is something that would result in a much bigger discussion.
Yeah.
Why don't we?
Sorry, what building is, I thought this was the
Next door.
old,
No, it's
That
up.
one I did the building next door.
is this the old flower?
Oh.
And this is the facade? Am I
No, that's an example. Okay.
Oh.
Can we just go through Juhi's application since we did add her to the agenda? And then we'll talk about this in next, and we will decide whether or not we can review it tonight.
So, and I apologize, I emailed Karen, but I realized late today, when you said you didn't receive it, I emailed Karen at Austin, Karen Trelish. But I did drop off 2 hard copies.
We have the smaller.
And this is something we've already discussed.
Yeah, so the 2 pages that we want to get to,
I'm sorry, is this, Lauren was just saying this is another workshop, is that right?
I don't know, I guess so these are the 2 pages, that are critical for today's discussion.
Guy Furnick was on,
A workshop.
last
That's a
month.
workshop.
Right, but this
As
is
a
not a
workshop,
workshop.
so now,
Right, it's not.
No.
there may have been changes made, and I think that's why.
Okay, so point this to the 2 sheets that you want us to look at.
Right, so the 2 sheets are HDRB 23 and 24. Oh, and Pinhut is bringing it up on the screen. Thank you. Feedback that we got at our workshop was possibly look at a different material here and illustrate the material here and do a more contemporary, consider more contemporary paneling. And so what we did was illustrated, last time we got core 10 because we thought core 10 would be warmer color, but when we saw it, we're like, oh boy, that does look like it.
Yeah.
Very bold. And so we tried a slate, I mean, we do have slate on our roof, on the existing roof. So we tried more of just gray tone slate. We have a multicolored slate on the existing, but we thought, okay, what if we did all gray? So that's what we're looking at there.
I like the slate.
So the slate is actual stone or
Yes,
it's,
real stone, not a composite or plastic.
And the roof, your roof is slate.
Right, the existing roof here is multicolored slate, but we wanna propose it just a gray slate for this.
and the second story sort of hyphen remains the standing seam metal roofing?
Right. Right,
Is the same as the porch,
as correct, as the porch
as
roof.
the front porch, okay.
Yeah, we tried putting a different siding in here, vertical, horizontal, and it was becoming more busy. And so we thought that just kind of went away and it disappeared kind of in between. Oh, instead of angling the wall, we decided to just go vertical. Balance things down.
Oh, I see, I
Yeah.
see, okay,
This was on a pitch.
right.
I kind of like that the slate, I didn't realize, I don't think we have any pictures that show your roof, but, I like the slate visually, and I, now that I know that your roof of the original house is slate, I think that's sort of a nice nod to that.
Would you re-roof the existing volume to match, or you would just keep the multicolored slate on the existing portion of your house?
On the existing portion, we will just keep it as
Keep the
is,
same
it's
as
hard
is.
to see.
Yeah.
It is hard, you have to kind of stand back. Just looking to see if our existing photos shows any.
I don't think so, because none of them were taken by a helicopter. So I don't-
Yeah, and then the final page is we were looking for contemporary examples in the village, of course, we,
Found one that you built?
one of our previous projects as a precedent. So yes, the HDRB 03 shows what you see from grade, what the roof looks like. But you'll have to go on top of the roof to see what that looks like.
All right, during one of these things, I'll agree. Do the same. So,
Okay. I think, the two concerns that I had when we looked at this last time were that middle section having the sort of a skewed wall, which has been resolved, and then also it being a sort of third material, but I do agree that transitioning to the slate, I mean, if this rendering is accurate, that having the colors be more related to one another mitigates that concern about it seeming like too many materials. Even though it is still two different materials, they seem to have a much closer relation to each other. So that concern that I have is resolved.
Definitely an improvement over Corten.
I was into the court.
Yes, I would love a Corten, but yes, this was too popping. So we.
Yeah.
Is there any, I know that it's a porch now that you're in the back, right? That you're enclosing.
Yeah.
It still feels a little. Not there to me. I don't know the right words. I don't want to say, anyway.
Like too hollow, you mean? Like it doesn't look like.
It feels like
structure
it feels like a porch that's been
Historic court.
closed in underneath and are being surrounded by all of these very, on top, very modern, heavy things, and on the far side, the historic structure, and it doesn't feel like it, like, I wonder, is cladding that in slate?
On the
And
bottom?
The bottom,
Yeah,
like, or the metal or something. Rather than a new, it's like a fourth material,
right.
a fourth sort of thing that's happening that doesn't feel. Without the addition, it's like, okay, yeah, that's a porch and it's a screened in or a glassed in porch, and then you introduce the addition and it feels.
I think that this, for me, this facade is, very visible from the street, and looking at the design guidelines, I think you all have helped to write them, if I understand correctly. Or, or voice in the conversation about them. I'm torn because additions to existing building, this cantilevered mass is, like, I'll read the last line. Cantilevered masses are generally discouraged in angular building forms and roof lines not normally seen in the village should be avoided. And so I'm seeing this and it just feels like if we were to say yes to this, then will someone else want the same? So while we're discussing materiality, and I appreciate the massing and the sort of joint between old and new, and obviously the desire to add space, which I think absolutely should happen, but I'm not sure in what form, and this cantilevered mass to me feels like it'd be something hard for me personally to say yes to.
Well, I can give you a bit of context on that,
Please.
which is that when we were talking about those things, it was more in the context of very traditionally styled volumes with sort of contemporary construction elements added to them, such as like a chimney that begins like on the second story of a building and then is clad in like wood cladding up the side, which is like not anything that we really see in the district because we discourage it, but like it was more about more sort of contemporary and sort of more like postmodern shapes, which then are just dressed up in horizontal siding so that it like looks like an old house.
Okay.
And with, it's so specifically talking about like the cantilevered things, it's like trying to have it look like an old house, but you're adding an extra 6 or 7 feet off of one side of it for whatever reason. So that's kind of as it pertains to the design guidelines, that's more what we were trying to avoid people doing. This, I think, is a little bit of a different context because this is a more sort of openly contemporary design that isn't trying to mimic something else.
So if I were to say the first line of these recommendations, and hopefully this all pans out and we're on the same page, but the first line says additions should not detract from or compete with the primary building and scale, placement, style, material. And if I were to be walking down Furnace, I feel like this would draw my eye more than the historic, beautiful front facade.
The other thing is that, Furnace Street, these are worker houses, which, is a very iconic structure type village. I guess my concern, and while I understand that, I can accept, a modern addition, it just seems like, especially this part, just something that's dropped there, is it cantilever? I mean, it looks like.
Corner is, yeah. Yeah. Right stand elevation, really.
It just seems like it's lopsided. So, I think that it would be nice if it was related a little bit better to the existing structures in the area. And so I think that, you know, that's my only comment on.
Could I ask if we would feel if you would feel differently if the vertical paneling from the second store in the middle were to extend, so if we were to essentially lose the sort of lean-to volume and have the street side volume be much more distinct from everything beyond it, would that make it distinct enough that the historic sort of worker volume is maintained visually on the street?
You mean running this down, right?
Basically running the street, because if I'm correct, this square window is a new window anyway, right? That's enlarging what's already there.
The square window exists, but this square window exists, but,
But
this
is it
is
the
an
same
addition
size
to
as
that.
the one
yeah.
that's there? Oh,
It should be the same size,
it just seems a little bigger, I
it
think.
does look bigger.
But regardless, I think that, you know, what we're saying is the sort of lean-to shed roof in the back is
treated as-
presumably an addition to the original volume.
Right.
So if we were to make that distinction even clear, if they were to make that distinction even clearer, is that
I like that.
enough of a separation, or does that make it, so then instead of it being two volumes that are kind of
Puzzle piece.
twisted onto each other, it's more of a clearer delineation?
Well, the one thing which is another sort of typical thing in historic preservation is the, what is it, the crystal hinge? In other words,
Like,
there is something which creates a visual separation between the historic structure and the new structure.
Mhm.
And so it may be something along that line was, it seems like, it's also a little bit on the busy side. I mean, you know, if perhaps some of it could be simplified. And certainly reducing the different types of material that we're dealing with would help.
and I'm thinking, so if, I love that idea of bringing this down, so I'll try that. What if this was just glass, bottoms? I know we will have things there, but maybe it's, darker glass or just, just bring that down. We may still have,
Is that gonna be like a mudroom or a fully interior space?
it's more like a mudroom, but with, let's say, a bench for shoes and things like that. But we can conceal that from the interior.
Well, I think I think your point was that it looks like the structure below it is insufficient to be holding the structure above it.
Yeah.
Like making it a.
Yeah.
You can make it if you.
Well, then but I think the contemporary design is all about defying gravity here, so.
I think part of it too is like the three, you have three sort of rather slender vertical glass segments there that read to me like a porch that was closed in with glass and then paneling at the bottom. I think it doesn't read to be.
What we'll do is maybe we'll take out the cantilever to give a little more visual anchoring. We'll try that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know.
So that this volume is less, like close.
Yeah.
Right, we'll try and closing that, or, at least create some kind of visual element so that this is not so big this way.
And I wonder if maybe instead of the three kind of very vertical rectangular glass panels side by side, if
Like a
something more
larger-
modern, either a
Yes.
larger rectangle or two squares.
Right.
Right, I
you
love
know,
that, yeah.
Yeah, that
That makes.
add some kind of heft there.
Right, because you're right, I mean,
Yeah,
we started out with like,
you're trying to like work around what's there and then yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, okay, that sounds great, okay.
I'm
we'll
not
try.
sure how I totally feel about bringing these vertical lines down though. Because there's, well, no, because there is an addition here, a historic addition, and then doing that that's wiping that away completely. So I don't know how the only.
No, I
person
agree
who
with
is-
that.
Well, I agree with you because I think that visually, as much of the existing historic fabric should be maintained as possible.
But then, I mean, that even goes into raising that question of this diagonal line, that gets even more busy.
I would say if you're gonna leave, if the board is recommending leaving the horizontal plank siding, that maybe there are a course or two of the siding above that window, and it's not just the head of the window transitioning to the steel.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I
tend to agree with Sean, but
taking it away completely. I mean, I
think
I kind of do visually, but I'm like, but that is a historic thing added to a worker's house.
Yeah.
To accommodate the work, like, I don't wanna take that part of the historic house away.
I like that idea. I think that working through this portion
Yeah.
feels like that might solve. This doesn't bother me as much as what's kind of
Yeah, I-
happening there. I think that, and I don't know if it needs to be a diagonal or, I don't know.
Do you know how old the addition is?
Diagonal? I don't know, I'll have to ask James.
That old.
Knows, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind bringing that diagonal back, because that does feel like a little more complete there.
Yeah.
It does add an
visually,
entry.
Yeah.
This section receives a little bit more. Yeah, okay, we'll try that. Yeah, all right, so we'll continue with this. All right, thank you so much, right? Anything else? Cause I don't wanna make your night too late.
Sketches for the theater.
I just think it's it's obviously it's an evolving thing and it is a very different thing, but I am confident that there is a world where your intentions can exist. So it's just a matter of, maintaining the parts of the building that we want to maintain.
Yeah. I have to say,
The big question I have is that, do you wanna come back in July?
yes, I like it.
Okay, on the agenda for July.
Thank you so much, and I'll make sure I'll email the right Karen. That's what happens when you work with too many jurisdictions. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Austin's wondering where you are tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Jonathan.
Are we motioning to,
Yeah, do I have a motion to take up this, the application that,
yeah, I'll make a motion to take up this onto the agenda and remove the minutes from the agenda in the same motion.
okay, yes. Do I have a second? Okay.
Second thought.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So, John, talk to us about what you want.
Basically, I just wanted to change all the windows that are in the building. They're all vinyl windows that are, some of them are broken or whatever. I wanted to put in the black vinyl wrapped wood windows to put in.
Okay,
That's for the upper parts.
There are a lot of images in here of wood.
That's because we already custom built the gables for the top of the storefronts,
Oh.
and that's what they are. That's what you're seeing there. So we took pictures of it so you could see what they're gonna be.
so this is going to be a cornice.
I'm gonna, I feel like it's a crude question, but
Yeah.
since you did do that store
Uh-huh.
and that came through us and it was all very methodical and it looks great. How is this kind of, this feels like a different beast. I have faith because you've done that project, and that's awesome. But it feels difficult to review.
It's basically,
Sort of not in
they're basically the same thing as in here. This building here, which is right near my building.
Yeah.
The bottom, that's basically what I'm duplicating. And it's a little more fancier than that one. But it would go,
So this is not just.
yes, it's gonna go
it's a facade.
where this
It's a
black is,
facade offering.
where the black is of the windows. It's gonna go right there. That's gonna be removed and it would be put in its place.
So I think what Kate is alluding to is the fact that this is a much bigger project than is being presented to us. And I think we had all sort of assumed as this work was going on that nothing was going to be changed, which is why it was never referred to us in the first place.
It should have been.
I don't think that it,
Well, there was nothing changed in the building at all. The windows that were there.
no, I realize that, but I'm saying, but what you're proposing, you know, photographs of a building that's not in the village and photographs
Well,
of portions of completed cornices. This is insufficient for us to take any action on tonight. I definitely think there is the bones of something that we could talk about with this building, because it's a really prominent building in our district. But this is not the way that we can do it tonight. So if you can give us more accurate drawings of the facade and how,
Is there a drawing in there? Of the measurements for where it was going?
Not an elevation.
no, there's like the drawing and plan of it. And a side view, you know, I mean, I think what I'm saying is if we had a drawing of the building and saw,
You know, architectural drawings?
yeah, just
Well,
to
the-
see where you know, because you have these details, but it's not really clear where the brackets are gonna be hitting, you know, how they relate to the windows above and below. I'm not saying that it is a bad idea or something that we wouldn't approve, but presented this way, it's really difficult for us to make an informed decision. And I wouldn't want the whole thing to sort of be, you know, abandoned because we couldn't take action on it. So if you can provide us with more information and drawings, we can look at it really seriously and
just-
treat it like a application.
Just thinking, even to get these profiles, the guy who did it would need to have had a shop drawing. And those shop drawings, if we have elevations and in lieu of an architectural drawing, those elevations could suffice. It's to get the sort of larger picture of what's
I
happening.
think it's also really important to see how that cornice is going to compare to the actual cornice of the building.
Yeah, and
It's gonna fit pretty much exactly where it is. The only thing. is-
No, sorry, the top along the roof line, that cornice.
It pretty much is gonna cover what was there.
Oh,
With the
that's
windows still
where
being
these are going in the roof line. I don't know why I was thinking these are going, I was
No,
thinking.
going in the corner. They're going up above the store windows.
Above the.
Okay, I'm talking about the
Transom.
cornice along, is that not the correct word? The cornice.
You're
along the
talking
roof
about
line.
the upper
I'm talking about the
the
upper
upper
cornice of the
No,
roof.
they're not going.
Oh,
This is below where the
That's
windows.
what I thought. So what I'm saying is,
Windows are.
what I'm saying is, what is it, that is it's a very decorative cornice, and I don't know what the cornice along the roof line looks like.
It's actually very simple.
Right, which feels, the facade of this building is extremely simple to the point of almost austerity, and I.
It's actually, what people have said to me is it's non-existent when you drove by. And since we opened up the windows to where they were and all, you started.
Oh, I
to
think
see the
that's
building.
fantastic. I
But
think that's
I
fantastic.
think that if done correctly, the top above those windows, it will look awesome. if
I
it's
think
done
it
right.
wouldn't, my personal opinion is I think it would look awesome on a brick building. I think it would look awesome if all of that siding was redone with new windows and.
Well, the siding may come later, the new
Yeah.
windows first.
It's hard to talk about adding such an ornamental feature to a very plain building without
The understanding of the
seeing the
bigger
entirety
picture.
of the plan.
The entirety of the elevation.
The entirety of the elevation, the plan for the elevation.
Well, and understanding understanding the plan is in the project
The
plan,
project
the bigger
plan.
picture
Yeah.
of what your intentions for this building. So I think, see, we're gonna have to, I mean, I don't feel comfortable making any sort of decision on this
The
tonight,
other thing is that, you know.
inclusive of the windows.
You do have an existing cornice at the top of the roof. Right. So the question then becomes the cornice that you want to add here, how does it work with the cornice up above?
Well, when you paint them, they will pretty much be close to what they would look like, because I've done this in other buildings.
Well, I understand that, but you have to understand our position that we usually need to have some information that we can turn over to the building inspector and say, this is what he's going to do. And realistically, we'd probably wind up being your draftsman and writing up all of the comments and stuff like that. I think that unfortunately, we're not going to be able to process this.
Okay. No problem.
I mean, and also the vinyl clad wood windows.
Well,
Are they new construction windows or are they insert windows?
Insert, they're gonna be,
So they're gonna go,
they're gonna go right where the other windows were.
right, but they're not, but they're gonna go in the existing, they're gonna go in the existing opening, not the rough
Right.
opening.
Right.
Yeah, I would not approve those for this building.
So
They're-
what would you approve?
We would approve new construction,
Wood?
full replacement windows.
Wood?
They could be aluminum clad, they wouldn't have to be all wood. But, I think one of our concerns is that losing daylight by doing an insert window, doing a pocket window.
You you know the difference, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a prominent
And that can be changed.
building.
With that.
Yeah,
I think the best thing for you to do would be to talk with whoever the project architect on this is. And we don't need, I mean, the building that you did next door, we had very simple drawings, but they were thorough. But I mean, it wasn't a huge packet, I think it was like 3 sheets, then we were able to understand everything you were doing. For this building, it's a prominent building, it's a big building, and even if there's things that you aren't going to be doing immediately, such as making changes to the siding or things like that, we need to understand kind of the longer term intentions so that we
So
can
would you want
move
me
in
to
the right
put
direction.
in there the siding that I'm gonna do, everything, even though if I'm not doing it right away?
I mean, we could,
We're willing to accept that, and sort of with an acknowledgement that you're not going to do it right away, but your intentions. Because we would rather see comprehensive approach to the building rather than piecemeal.
yeah, I just wanna know the whole plan.
yeah.
I didn't do that because I was figuring that I was going by what I'm able to do at the moment.
No, totally,
If
and
you guys
that's,
are willing
that's
to
understandable.
Look at the whole picture, I'll make the whole picture.
Yeah. And then you have plenty of time to get it done, we're not.
You guys are gonna be around.
Okay, so why don't we plan to see you in July?
I'll see,
Which-
my guy's gonna be gone, so I'll see
Okay.
if I can or I can't.
Is he gone permanently or for?
Well, he's gonna be gone for the rest of the month, so.
Oh, okay.
That's why I wanted to get this now. All right,
Do
thank
you have the
you.
right email address also, or it was given to Jeff and there was a
I
missing
don't know
meeting?
what the confusion was, because I called 3 times to see that everything was in order.
Well, I don't know who you were speaking to,
I
but
just-
obviously, okay, well,
Right.
obviously, the transition period right now makes it a little difficult. And my being here only 2 days a week, I didn't even see this file, so it had not been.
Well, we'll
sent
make
to the
sure
board.
now you're in our
Should all
minds.
settle down.
Yeah.
and
We'll make
Yeah,
sure that
sure.
you are on the agenda for
If you want.
July, if you wanna come in July,
Well,
or
I'll see if
August, if you wanna come in
I
August.
can get the drawings and all. and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even if you're halfway there in July and you want to do another workshop, we can do that too. It doesn't have to be complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, man.
Okay, good night. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We all motion to adjourn.
Sneaky me, thinking this was gonna be.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, let me just.
Aye, aye.
Nine.